Hi, and welcome everyone to another episode of the Fels podcast. My name is Dushan, and today with me we have David. David has been running entrepreneurship and skills development programs in the Middle East and North Africa region for over 15 years. And he's currently working, he's a co-founder of bloom.pm, which is the social enterprise that run programs for startups and accelerators in more than 10 different Middle East and North Africa countries. So I'm super stoked to be joined by David today. David, you're joining me from Lebanon, right?
Yes.
And so tell me, how is everything going on your end, and how have you been? I'd like to just start by letting you being introduced to our audience a bit better. So if you can tell us a bit more about what is your background and where you're coming from. So yeah, that would be a nice way to start.
Sure. Sounds good. A lot of questions wrapped up in there. So I'll just try to work through them. I am based in Lebanon. Mostly, I'm spending a fair bit of time in the UAE and elsewhere. We run programs around the Middle East and Africa, mostly online, although we're big fans of hybrid programs as well. And we love doing offline activities, but we love the aspect of thinking how can we make online programs and activities really as dynamic and fun and engaging and meaningful and effective as possible. And through online, we can just reach people across more broader geographies. And so we love that aspect. We can dig into a bit that a bit more separately as well. But otherwise, separately, I'm Lebanese American. I grew up mostly in California. And I went to high school in Lebanon for a couple of years, but then I went back to California to finish school and go to university and work there for a couple of years. And then I was really happy to, make this shift about 17 years ago to close things out there and move out to Lebanon and the region and see how I could contribute to entrepreneurship and positive change in the region.
That's awesome. So Fels, one of the things that we are very passionate in Fels is empowering those developing regions and giving them the opportunity to tap into their full potential. And so you're someone that studied in US, but then after studying in US decided that you actually want to build your career about, investing your skills and knowledge back into the region that you originally came from. So tell me a bit more about how was that decision for you, and what was the motivation behind you wanting to co-found Bloom and build something that can empower the regional entrepreneurs and give them opportunity to develop into their full potential.
Yeah, sure. Great questions. Well, for me, entrepreneurship, by its very nature, has a positive social impact motive behind it. I believe that entrepreneurship really in its core is about solving problems, helping improve lives, livelihoods, communities, towards sustainable development, etc. Although where I grew up, that's not how it's often interpreted. And I grew up in Silicon Valley and was very fortunate to grow up there in a great environment, and I learned a lot from that environment. But I felt like how entrepreneurship is often interpreted there is actually exacerbating inequality, and that kind of inequality is actually celebrated. The question of how can we make as much money as quickly as possible for the smallest number of people, because that's literally how successful companies are celebrated, is if you can make more money, have a bigger exit with a smaller number of people, then it gets more kudos, more celebration. And then at the same time as well, is if those companies are doing something that actually causes harm to people's lives and livelihoods, then that's often dismissed, and people say that that's not their responsibility, that's the responsibility of the government or someone else, etc. But then a lot of people in Silicon Valley are actually actively trying to change policies to hurt people's lives and livelihoods. Remove basic worker rights, the aspect of the weekend, or reduce people's benefits, healthcare benefits, etc. You think a lot of these things of the sharing economy and the Ubers, etc., is the people who worked for the parent company were getting great benefits and stock options and healthcare, etc. But then they're actually actively trying to work to reduce the benefits that go to the drivers, to a lot of the people in the communities, etc., and say that they don't need parental leave, they don't need health benefits, they don't deserve weekends, they don't deserve minimum wage, etc. And those kinds of things were celebrated, and I think that's really too bad. And I know there are some benefits. In my mind, that's really not necessary. Even these companies like Uber, they did provide some good benefits. There's some great aspects of the technology. They did improve people's lives and transportation, etc., in some ways. But then why also have these components of working to hurt people's lives and livelihoods as well? And so anyway, I think that in various ways, Silicon Valley and that mindset of entrepreneurship and often driven by some elements of venture capital drives towards inequality and drove Silicon Valley to become a global epicenter of inequality. Whereas actually, my thought is, how can we be leveraging entrepreneurship and venture capital and all these resources and our creativity and critical thinking and our ingenuity, etc., to build towards a more positive world, a world of more caring and compassion and healthier communities and healthier lives?
Good. Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more with you. And this is such an inspiring point of view of kind of seeing how can we, treat some of those inequalities that are necessarily created by the 21st century economy. And obviously, you having such a large experience in Silicon Valley in the United States and coming back to the Middle East and North Africa region, I'm kind of curious, what have maybe been some of the key takeaways that have shaped your approach at Bloom, or what have been maybe some of the biggest learnings that you've had from being in US and observing those things, and then how have those things impacted your approach right now as you are building bloom.pm and building that ecosystem of entrepreneurship in Middle East and North Africa?
Yeah, super interesting question, and definitely relevant in a lot of emerging ecosystems. Some of the key things that we realize is that building startups and building entrepreneurial ecosystems are both long-term endeavors. These are not things that just happen in the course of a couple months through a program or a couple programs. There's a lot of trial and error, a lot of learning, a lot of collaborative learning and peer learning, etc., that comes in, and it's a part of that. And that happens both as well within a particular startup or team or social enterprise. Is this aspect, the cycles of learning, and how can you get more peer support, advising, mentorship, training, upskilling, hiring different people with different skills, etc. But then that also happens at the ecosystem level. How can there be more opportunities for people to be learning best practices, experimenting, learning through failure or things that don't work out quite right, and then trying again, etc. Building that kind of positive momentum is super important. So there's elements there related to patience, related to continual learning, related to critical mass, having more opportunities for people to learn from each other. And so for some of this is it definitely shaped part of our work, thinking, okay, how can we help build efforts that are more adaptive, that help people where they are, learn the skills, get that kind of mentorship, that support that they need, that they could benefit from, but then also broaden what we mean in terms of the community of support that can be there for each entrepreneur, each person, each startup, etc. Now, when each of these is constricted to someone's nearby, is it then that becomes really difficult in these smaller and emerging ecosystems where there's fewer people, or there are fewer people with different areas of expertise in different sectors, and then in each aspect of the business within each of those sectors. And so that can be really challenging, not just in the capitals and the hubs of some of these cities, but then as well when you go into even some of the broader geographies and different parts of the countries, is that reduces even more. And so we've been a big fan, for example, a long time, of thinking of these regional approaches. We used to talk about the ABCD of the region. Can we more effectively connect Amman, Beirut, Cairo, Dubai? But then as well, we actually want to spread that even further and reach outside of those capitals into the other countries, into the other regions, not just the emerging ones in, Saudi and in other GCC countries, etc., but then also into the smaller cities within each of these countries. And so this is why we shifted a lot of our programs online. We're big fans of remote programs, remote mentorship, but then also seeing how we can make those things even more dynamic, more effective, more supportive, etc.
Yeah, and there's definitely some of the things that recent changes in the way that the work operates and works have been very supportive of that. Like more people being online, more people learning how to operate in environments which are not very physically based, and that's definitely a large part of what kind of drives those changes and drives those positive momentums. I'm kind of curious to hear. I mean, you've been in the region now for like over 15 years. What are the main changes that you have observed over this time? And what are the main changes that have maybe sparked your attention and have been something that you think that is really relevant and valid for the region at the moment?
Yeah, for sure. Two main things come to mind. First off, that there definitely has been some positive change and growth in the region. And then the other side is there hasn't been nearly enough positive change and growth in the region.
Yeah.
There definitely have been some efforts to improve the entrepreneurial environments in a number of countries, and there's more momentum and awareness around entrepreneurship, etc. But still, from our observation and experience, the vast majority of people go through school and university with zero entrepreneurial exposure. The vast majority of companies don't provide enough in terms of supporting entrepreneurship or intrapreneurship or innovation within their programs. Even at the peak of some of these places in the entrepreneurial momentum, while some people were saying that they thought that these ecosystems were at capacity, I was thinking and saying at the same time that if there was literally 100x more in terms of entrepreneurial activity in these places, we still would not be saturated. We just need to have those be more diversified and more exciting, more engaging, and engaging different communities, people of different ages, etc. Both engaging people who are older, like a lot of things like hackathons and startup programs, etc., are really tailored towards people in their early and mid-20s, which is great. That could be a great time to work on a startup. But the data shows that startups are more successful when they're started by people who have a number of years of professional experience. So there's often people in their 30s, mid-30s, sometimes even 40s, 50s, etc. Like older people can really bring a lot of that great experience to their entrepreneurial endeavors. And then at the same time as these kinds of entrepreneurship activities can be hugely beneficial to help people learn skills, connect, experiment, try out different sectors, different fields, etc. So at the same time, making these opportunities available to people younger, while they're in university, even while they're in high school, etc. Now, I've been a big advocate, for example, of saying that, one of the great things we could do in these ecosystems to really build great, not just entrepreneurial momentum, but innovation and creativity and economic momentum more broadly, is can we actually get to the point where we provide a high quality entrepreneurial experience to every young person, literally from kindergarten up through higher education. Now, of course, what an entrepreneurial experience would be for a 7-year-old or a 12-year-old would be very different from a 15-year-old, and then different from a 20-year-old and a 25-year-old, etc. That's totally fine, but we can do so much more to help people build those creative capacities, like critical thinking, those passion, those energy for problem solving, could be a huge help in the region.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, you get me all smiling while you're talking about this, because it's just like, no, because it is just so true that, like, if every young person, as they are going through, like, like primary and secondary education, they would be exposed to those kind of experiences of having to build something, understand how it works. It does have to be something complex. It does have to be something great. It's just like, getting them in front of, get that feeling of being a driver on something. And it's like, just would give them so much skills that are more transferable than anything else if they are learning in our primary and secondary education. And so, yeah, no, I just couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree more with you.
You said this word transferable, which is so important, because really, we did a lot of this research into understanding what are entrepreneurial skills, what are entrepreneurship skills, but then also what are employability skills, and what are life skills in general. And there's huge overlap here in terms of what those are. And literally, like we have this challenge throughout the region that not just around entrepreneurship, but a lot of employers are looking to hire people and they're struggling to find people, even though there are a lot of people graduating from the universities and the technical institutes, et cetera, is the employers are struggling to find people who have a lot the skills that they're looking for. And very often they're what we call soft skills, or what we prefer to call universal skills, which are very much entrepreneurial skills, and they are employability skills. And these are things that we can cultivate through these sorts of entrepreneurship programs, skills development programs, et cetera. And there's big overlap in terms of this, both in people's entrepreneurial careers, also in their other, work pursuits, but also in their personal lives and communities, is if we can help embed values and care connected to these skills of doing, then it could be a huge help for our economies, our communities, even our families and otherwise as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And you're talking about those soft skills, and I'm kind of curious what your approach at Bloom is about, kind of developing those skills in your potential audiences, and then in the region in which you're operating, and you can share with us maybe what are a few of those skills that you're specifically focusing on trying to see being more developed, and what kind of programs do you run around it. I would be that would be something that I would really like to hear more about.
Yeah, for sure. So this is definitely a critical area that we're working a lot around, and actually this is a core of our sort of different approach. So over the last we've been running these entrepreneurship programs for about 15 years, like you mentioned, but throughout that time, really thinking how can we help these be more effective, both in the short term during the program and then in the longer term of the entrepreneurial endeavors, but then also even just longer term in people's lives. Even if that particular entrepreneurial endeavor doesn't work out, what's next for that person in their career? Maybe they go look for a job or they try another startup, and we want them to be developing those skills as well. So we've been working to embed it for a long time, but then about 6 years ago, we took a step back, and this is when we shifted from our primarily more traditional offline programs like we were running before, and thinking, okay, how can we really leverage tech, leverage data, and develop a new approach to help these programs be much more effective. And so we went even much deeper into thinking about what is holding back a lot of startups and small businesses from their growth. And we realized it's not just the support that they need for their enterprise, it's the abilities of the people within those teams, and how can we help cultivate them more. So we started focusing much more on these three main areas. One of them is what we call universal skills, like we spoke about. Here, let me. There. Now we're back. So, so one of them. So we took a step back in terms of thinking how can we be supporting much more individual growth along with enterprise growth, and in this we decided to focus on three main areas. So one of them is what we call universal skills, which other people call soft skills, but we like elevating the importance and calling them universal skills because they are.
Love that. I love that.
And these are things like listening, speaking, problem solving, creativity, staying positive, aiming high, and ambition, leadership, and teamwork. These are the 8 categories that we cover in universal skills. And then second area is what we call well-being and engagement. And so for this, we use a framework called PERMA from the positive psychology movement, which is around positive emotions, engagement, relationships, meaning, achievements, and health. And if people think about these, then it can help them be much more effective, not just in work, but in other aspects of in their whole life. And so we're really excited about that. And then also we leverage character strengths in some ways. So research in terms of character strengths can help them then leverage that in their work, in their learning, etc. And we use a globally validated tool around character strengths as well. And we're working on even building some experiments around how can we how can we improve those research tools ourselves, but then also contribute to some of these other efforts as well that are seeing how they can be improved for us and the world. So, for example, there's another really interesting effort called the Inner Development Goals, which was initiated in Scandinavia by a group that was thinking about, why are we struggling to achieve the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals? And when they reflected on it, is they thought, oh, actually a key part is that we're not helping people develop their inner development. We're not helping people cultivate their inner strengths and be able to deliver on our community needs, our community development needs. And so this is a really interesting framework that now it has these 5 key areas, but actually there's a global effort now to bring in more diverse opinions on that. So the 5 areas as they are now is, one is related to being, so someone's relationship with themselves. The second is around cognitive skills and thinking. The third around relating and caring for others in the world. The fourth area around collaborating and social skills. And then the fifth is around acting and leading, actually enabling change. And so we're working on leveraging those and helping people cultivate those, while we also are helping to contribute to this global effort to improve that framework. And we really are big believers that improve how to cultivate these strengths, and then we can have a big impact on our enterprises, the enterprises we work with, and on the partners we work with, and then on our communities.
Now that makes so much sense. I mean, it's just like it's a one giant puzzle, and then kind of taking care of each of the different elements. But what I've always seen is the world has so much different problems, like SDGs, for example, Sustainable Development Goals. So many different areas of focus for us, kind of as a humanity, move forward towards. But then what's behind all of it is you need leaders, people capable of making that change. And if you I've always believed leadership being a fundamental solution. If you can provide the world with more leaders, then all of the other problems will solve itself out with the result of better leadership. So it's just such an interesting to kind of hear and compare different experiences of working on it. I'd love to hear what are maybe your favorite success stories of startups or communities that bloom.pm has been working with or supporting. If you can tell us maybe 1 or 2 of your favorite success stories that kind of what gets you out of the bed in the morning.
Oh, wow. Okay, well, there are a couple of things that come to me with this. One is around some that we've worked with, and some of the founders are really inspiring, and things that people who we've learned from, and we can all be inspired by. But then another part is around the communities and partners who we work with, and we really love working in a core process of collaboration. We really believe that if we collectively work together more as the ecosystem of organizations and people working to support, learners, entrepreneurs, people improving their skills, etc., is that we shouldn't be thinking about this from a competitive mindset, is that we really should be thinking about this more from a collaborative mindset, and we can collectively have much bigger impact together. So this is a core fundamental aspect in terms of how we built the Bloom platform, which we're now using in our programs, that then has this shared library of activities and the shared assessment tools, etc., that we want to enable all groups to use. Initially, people thought, wait, you're building this stuff, and then you want to help those other accelerators use it, who are our competition. We said, they're not our competition. They're our community. They're our ecosystem. And we want to try to compile this stuff and help others use it, and help us all grow from it. We learn from them, and then they learn from us, and great, we can all learn more together. And there's this crazy aspect as well that I'm still have access to my public library in California where I used to live, and I haven't lived there in 17 years. And this aspect of who has access to these resources, the books, books that are so helpful, best practices, or the best content, etc. In our perspective, this is not where any group should think that they derive their competitive advantage from having access to some books that other people don't have access to. This stuff we just need to normalize and say, no. Everybody, all the entrepreneurs, all the programs should have access to these resources and books, etc. And each organization can then see how they want to establish their competitive advantage in terms of how they deliver it. How do they facilitate those activities? How do they provide that mentorship and support to the teams and the learners, etc.? Not do they have access to that. So anyway, that's part of our core approach to collaboration. And we've loved the feedback we've gotten from other groups in the ecosystem who have also been likewise really inspiring and open to that kind of collaboration and sharing and giving feedback, etc. So we love that. On the other side, by the way, in terms of a couple quick startups, sure, one of the startups that we've really enjoyed working with over the course of a number of years, and they went through a number of programs with us, is Fabricade, which is a social enterprise working to both have a big environmental impact by reducing fabric waste and the stuff that goes into our, problematic waste management system, or at least in Lebanon, the waste mismanagement system. And so they're things that otherwise would have gotten tossed in the trash, and they're repurposing that and making it available to income levels, new job opportunities, and providing other positive environmental benefits as well. And so that's that's a team that we've been really excited and honored to have worked with over the course of a number of years, early in their cycle. And then another one out of Cameroon. So one of the programs we run is supporting women-led social enterprises in the Middle East and Africa. And from our first cycle, we had a bunch of amazing teams, but one of the teams that really touched my heart the most was this lady, Marie Claire, who did this endeavor, social enterprise called Kuja X, which is working to address this challenge of basically like discrimination and marginalization of women there who don't have access to basic feminine hygiene products for their menstrual cycle. And then from that, they miss opportunities to go to school. They're discriminated against in their communities, miss out on job opportunities, etc. And so she found an amazing to repurpose like banana waste byproducts and process them into really high quality, ecologically friendly, culturally appropriate feminine product. And she's doing this in a really difficult place in Cameroon in times of conflict in difficult areas, but also doing it in this really beautiful, community-focused, impact-focused manner. And so she is definitely an inspiration to us, and we're trying to see how we can expand supports for those amazing enterprises and others in the region as well.
No, that's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. Okay, so I want to kind of go through a couple more questions before we start wrapping this conversation up. I think one of the things that I'm kind of very curious to know from each person that I talk to is always, what makes you successful, and what are some of self-discovery and self-improvement practices that maybe you're implementing in your life that maybe our audience can learn from and kind of try to replicate some of the patterns that have helped you get to where you are in your career and in your life. So, what is, in your opinion, what are some of the personal development practices that make you successful?
That is it's a great question. And the first is the question, am I successful? When I'm not being nice to myself, as I feel sometimes like I haven't achieved nearly as much as I would have wanted to by, this many years, 15 years working on this stuff and trying to solve these really difficult challenges. And when I'm nicer to myself, I realize, wow, we've actually done a lot of really amazing stuff. And so definitely there are aspects related to gratitude practices and positive thinking that are just really great to keep in mind, especially entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs working in difficult places. Very often set really high standards for themselves that are really difficult to meet. And so we've seen that also a lot of entrepreneurs around the world, but especially in these places, often have challenges related to the or Vacation, etc., because it's just really so dang difficult in some of these places. So we encourage people to take care of themselves, think positively. For me, there are a couple others. One is really remembering the body. Taking care of your body is really important. So whatever this is, exercise, stretching, eating well, etc. These are ones that nobody can avoid. And there's a lot of great research that shows how, like, they talk about there's a pharmacy is locked through exercise and through taking care of your body. So I definitely encourage that. But then even there's a more underlying one, which is that, continual learning and continual improvement. And, we really encourage the people in our teams and in our organization and the teams we work with to be regularly thinking about how can they be evolving, adapting, improving their habits to address whatever they're feeling. And this is an ongoing process. We're of mindfulness and meditation, and I'm a big fan. I'm actually going through a course right now around mindfulness-based stress reduction. And there's really incredible research that shows the science behind this. But for people who can adopt these practices, there are huge mental and physical health benefits to some of these basic practices of mindfulness and meditation. I'll say one little trick here that we've learned over the years, which is for everyone, adopting habits is really difficult. And this is when people always talk about how people have New Year's resolutions and few of them last until the end of January. You think you have this whole, you take time to reflect and think about what's really important for you. And for all of us, it's really difficult to actually do them then. And so there's this trick around what we call the tiny habits, where, how can you really help implement new practices, which is if you say like, hey, I want to exercise for an hour, or do an hour of yoga or reading or, whatever it is, how can you take the smallest nugget of that takes, you want to do an hour of yoga? Okay. Maybe for the first week, if you're struggling to keep up that habit, for the first week, you can say that you have achieved that habit if at your assigned time, etc., you do 1 minute of yoga or 30 seconds or even one stretch.
Love that.
What's the smallest nugget that you cannot say no to? And then build that habit. Do that for the first week. And then the second week, do 2 minutes. And then the third week, do 3 minutes. And this actually has like neuroscience evidence that we say what you practice becomes stronger, that you build these neurological pathways in your brain that help you build momentum on these positive habits. So if you're struggling with a habit, look it up, but don't give up. Make it smaller, make it easier, and keep up the effort. And maybe we can help you with that somehow.
That is awesome. Okay.
All of us together.
Yes. Okay. So yeah, these tiny habits example totally resonates with me. I mean, it's really much easier when you set yourself small goals and like give yourself no excuses to break out of those scary commitments. Would be curious to hear what are some of the habits that you've been working on lately, or what are the things that you've been incorporating in your routines?
Sure, great question. So there's two main ones that I'm working on. One of them is that I am working to improve the consistency of my my meditation practice. I have found that really helpful so far to give mental space to be able to focus on the things that I think are important. And I think this is one of the key challenges of entrepreneurs is, one of the most important things for an entrepreneur is to make decisions. But making decisions takes energy. It takes effort, not just the effort to do the research or talk to people or find the data, et cetera, that you need to make that decision, but even just the process of thinking takes effort. And there is what we call decision fatigue. So helping myself and helping other entrepreneurs really take some time to pause and reflect and think, what are the important things to think about, to work on is really important. And It's one of the most important things that any entrepreneur needs to do. But beyond that is I do have the sense that everyone is the entrepreneur of their own lives. And so helping people think about, well, what's important for me now as relates to learning, as relates to my well-being, as relates to what do I want to achieve in life? How do I want to feel? In the end, you, Dushan, and every person listening is the entrepreneur of their own life that is going to have to make those decisions, or they decide that they don't want to. They ignore that, or they get caught up in the whirlwind and the busyness, etc. And then life just passes. And then you wonder, where the heck did the time go? Etc. If you're not consciously thinking about that and making those decisions for yourself. So that's one. And then connected to it is this aspect of the morning routine. And I think this is something that has so much more value than a lot of people give credit for. But how do you start your day? How do you start your day in terms of feeling good, energized? Is there exercise? Is there meditation? Is there reading? Is there prioritization, etc.? So for me, kind of related to the first one, is I'm working on this process of having mindful prioritization every morning to really help me make sure I plan out the day properly. And, there are these tricks related to time boxing, estimating how much time things are going to take and scheduling them in, etc. But this is also an incredibly difficult thing to do, time estimation, and then figuring out, okay, once you figure out the time estimates, well, how are you going to fill that time? What do you want to put in there? And that's something challenging for me and for many of us. Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But I love that. I mean, I've been myself working on kind of revamping my morning routine like a couple of months ago, and it really makes all the difference in the world when you get into the day feeling like you're on the right path and you're doing the right things. And so that's definitely awesome. One of the things that we believe here in Fels a lot is that, for the kind of how can you find the right tools for the right purpose? And so I would love to kind of hear maybe what are some of the favorite tools or devices or softwares that you've been using to manage your own routine and manage your own productivity. And if you have any advices for our audience on what could they maybe look into to help optimize their productivity and well-being.
That is a great question. I hope in the not too distant future, one of the key tools that much of the Fels community will love using is the Bloom platform. We're working on rolling that out over the next couple months and expanding circles of users for that. So if anyone's interested in being a sort of early beta user, beta tester, then please let us know, reach out. But basically Bloom is a tool where we help people take some of these self-assessments to help guide people through the process of prioritization, setting those priorities, and then finding actionable nuggets of learning to help them improve in those areas. And that's both for their enterprise or their organization and in their personal life. But helping people, take action on those things that they think are most important to them. And then also for people who are running programs to help them manage more effectively a program that includes both adaptive cohort-based learning. So we learn more about what the cohort needs and can adjust the program so it's most responsive to that. And then also for individual learning, adaptive individual learning, but within a sort of group cohort context.
That's awesome. I mean, we'll definitely look to link something in the description of this episode where we can kind of get people to. I mean, this is definitely something that would be very useful for a large part of our audience. And so
amazing.
Let's figure out how do we link that. But that is awesome. So that kind of leads into my last question, which is, first, David, it has been such a joy for me to talk to you. And I mean, just so much energy and passion that you have for the work that you do is so inspiring. And just all of these examples have been really, really interesting for me. And I'm sure they're going to be great for our audience as well as they go through this episode. So where can people find you online, and where can they learn more about Bloom? And how can our listeners be of use to you? Maybe how can they help you?
Oh, amazing. Sure. Look, let me just say one last thing in terms of the tools as well, by the way.
Oh, sure.
Because one is we're big fans of digital tools and helping people find ones Now, of course, kind of like the habits one, as we encourage people to think about adopting new tools in a way that they really use them effectively and not get overwhelmed either by being too tool heavy or the cost of them, since a lot of SaaS stuff can be really quite expensive again. So be cautious about that. But also, one of my favorite tools is actually a tool to help sort of manage your digital detox. And so it's called Timeout. It's an app on your laptop, which you can set reminders to pop up and reminds you to take a break, to look away, to eat, to exercise, to go get some water, whatever it is, you can set it up. But this can be so important to help people, stay focused and energized and sort of preempt the distraction or the burnout. Like when you start feeling yourself come towards burnout, it's kind of like dehydration. Like if you start feeling thirsty, you're already dehydrated. You should be preempting dehydration by drinking enough water. You should preempt burnout or getting anywhere close to it by making sure that you're taking care of yourself. So using an app like Timeout or some other reminder is great to give you these reminders to take care of yourself. In terms of Bloom, another great question there. So you can find us on all social media outlets right now. Mostly we're listed under Bloom EMEA because we're launching in the Middle East and Africa, and so this is Europe, Middle East, Africa, and we're building the Bloom platform to hopefully be useful to people around the world. And then we'll do more stuff on our social media at the bloom.pm channels. But for now, we're Bloom EMEA. And of course, check out our website, bloom.pm. Now, in terms of ways that we would love to collaborate with people, a couple of things come to mind. We frequently have programs open that people can join. So keep an eye on the website and our social media for opportunities to join. Plus, we're soon going to be launching more open programs, some free and some fee-based, but we basically want to open these up to more people who aren't in a formal 3-month accelerator program, etc. And we really want to help engage more people and open up these opportunities for growth and learning and community support, etc. to more people. So we're really excited about that. And we're also always looking for mentors to join. Now, if people are interested in actually collaborating with us to run programs, that'd be super exciting. We're open to corporates, universities, or NGOs or donors who are excited about running more effective programs, either for startups or small businesses, or for students or others in the university environment who want to work around entrepreneurship, skill development, etc. And we love running these both online, hybrid, and in person. For corporates, we think every company should be supporting more skill development internally, improving those universal skills, improving well-being and engagement, etc. Whether it's for in-person or through hybrid engagement, there's so much more we can do to help boost the effectiveness of these organizations and companies, both for the benefit of the company and for the benefit of the people inside of the company. And hey, at the same time, those kinds of companies that are really taking care of their people and are values-driven are also going to be more effectively serving their customers and their community as well. So we definitely believe that there's opportunities for the win-win-win in those efforts.
Absolutely. Awesome. That's incredible, David. Once again, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for all the insights and wisdom that you've shared with us. And we'll link all of this in the description, and we hope that everybody who has enjoyed this episode will check it out and find as much value there as much as you found in this episode. So thank you so much. And this has been another episode of the Fels podcast. It's been my pleasure, and I hope to see you again soon.
Amazing. Thanks so much, Dushan and the whole Fels team. You folks are fantastic, and I really love your effort and everything that we collectively can do to build this sort of positive entrepreneurial momentum, in the region and around the world is greatly needed and greatly appreciated. So best wishes and good luck to you all.
Thank you. Thank you so much.